Philip Spencer, a former police officer, left his house in Ilkley at approximately 7:10 in the morning on the 1st of December 1987. His intentions were to walk across the moor and visit a relative who lived in the village of East Morton on the far side. He took with him a camera and this compass. The compass in case he got lost because he wasn't that familiar with the moor, and the camera to take some photographs of Ilkley town from the moor tops. He actually began his walk just below the White Wells building down there and wound his way up the hill to this point where we are. He consciously remembers walking along this path and then up over the rise and past a small quarry. Just as he was walking past the quarry, a movement caught his attention from his right eye, and he spun round and he was amazed to see, just about 10 feet away from him, a small green creature about 4 foot 6 inches tall. It suddenly turned and scuttled away at a terrific rate away from him. Spencer shouted out, "Hey!" brought the camera up and took one shot. The creature then continued running around a bluff out of sight. Spencer then ran after it, and as he turned the corner, the creature had disappeared. But he was confronted by a silver disc-shaped object, which almost immediately shot up and disappeared into the clouds out of sight. Instead of continuing his journey, he decided to retrace his steps and go back down into Ilkley. And a further surprise awaited him there, because he discovered that the streets were full of shoppers. The shops were all open, and he couldn't understand this because to him it should have been about just after 8 o'clock in the morning. And yet when he looked at the clock on the church tower, he discovered it was now 10 a.m.
We showed his photo to experts.
Well, it's a very interesting picture. My impression is that it made my blood pump. You know, when you see a picture like that, of course I'm exposed to pictures like this all the time, UFO craft and occasionally photographs of beings, but something about it seems right about it when I first looked at it. Of course, there was the skepticism that always goes along with it, because as a scientist, I'm to rule out photographs that would have some aspect of a hoax. It doesn't seem like it's a hoax. It seems that it is what the witness reported.
We heard about it from the chap himself phoning me, inviting us to go up there to show us a photograph he'd taken of this creature. We went to see him. Well, the first time we went, we were a bit late. We got there in the dark. He took us up on the moor in pitch blackness just to show us the spot. And then we went up again. We took Peter Huff with us this time. We did an interview, half-hour interview on tape. And then we suggested that, you know, he had this missing time period. We suggested that we could do a hypnotic regression for him if we could find someone to do it, and if he agreed to it. At first he was a bit worried about hypnotism, but we reassured him, and after another week he agreed that he would like to be regressed under hypnosis. So we brought him here to my house, together with Dr. Singleton. They met on a Wednesday and they had a preliminary discussion. They agreed to do the session at the weekend, on the Saturday, which then took place, which explained all the missing time period that the witness had about meeting these green creatures and being taken in the craft and shown various moving pictures. And it also explained his compass being reversed. It had been in a strong magnetic field which apparently connected with the craft. As far as the case itself is concerned, I'm 100% sure that it's genuine.
Hypnosis was carried out by a clinical psychologist, and we discovered that in fact the story did not begin with the taking of the photograph. It began at this point here, just a few yards from where we're standing. It was at this point where he noticed the small creature coming down the hill towards him. He stopped because he was absolutely petrified with fear and wanted to turn and run, but he discovered that every muscle in his body was paralysed. He couldn't move at all. The creature then turned round and started going back up the hill, and he discovered, to his horror, that he was actually following it, but he wasn't walking. He was now levitated a few inches above the ground, similar to a balloon being tethered by a piece of string. He was pulled up the hill, over the brow of the hill, and into the small quarry at the other side. In the quarry, he saw for the first time the silver disc, and a door opened in it, but he has no memory of actually going inside the object, just an overwhelming blackness which then disappeared, and he found himself in a white room. It was very brightly illuminated with white light, but he could see no source for that light. He heard a voice in his head telling him not to be afraid and ordering him to lie down on a table which was in the room. This he did, and he found he couldn't move, and he was surrounded by 4 or 5 of the green creatures. They carried out some kind of medical examination which basically involved a fluorescent light in the shape of a tube which passed along the length of his body, much in the way of a body scanner. He was then told he could get off the table and given a conducted tour of the object. This involved taking him down a corridor, and he looked through a window and couldn't believe his eyes, because there was the planet Earth in the distance, and for the first time he realised he wasn't on the Earth, he was somewhere high up in space. He was taken into a room which seemed to be an engine room. There was a piece of equipment in the middle of it which was like a gyroscope. This was spinning rapidly, and his camera, which was hanging around his neck by a cord, was drawn towards it, as was the compass. He was then taken from that room into another, where he was shown 2 films. Now, these weren't ordinary films, they were more 3-dimensional, very realistic. In the first film, he was shown the planet Earth, and he saw people starving, millions of people starving. He saw rivers full of pollution. It was the worst parts of the planet Earth now, but made much, much worse. It was our own future. And there was a warning here that we had to get our act together as a species, otherwise this is what would happen. He was then shown a second film. Now, I believe this was very personal, because neither under hypnosis nor consciously since will he discuss the details of this. It's quite possible, from 1 or 2 hints I've had from Philip Spencer, that it predicted his own personal future. The next thing he remembers is being back on the moor and suddenly seeing the green creature, and having no memory of what had just happened, bringing up the camera, taking the photograph, chasing it, seeing the object, which then rapidly disappeared up into the air.
Well, it was a perfectly normal session to him, and he didn't know anything about aliens or spacecraft or anything like that. He was just doing a straightforward regression on a person, and as far as he was concerned, all the normal reactions occurred that a person would do when telling the truth under hypnosis. So he was very impressed with it.
Okay, well, one of the interesting aspects of this picture is this tubular-shaped object that's up on the horizon here. We thought it was some kind of pipe or perhaps an antenna or something. In doing contour enhancement and building a contour map, like a topographical map, it is indeed a cylinder. And you could view it as a cylinder perhaps 3.5 inches or so in diameter, 2 to 3 inches, because we don't know the distance away. We do know that it's a cylinder shape and it's reflecting light. Therefore, from filtering, inverse Phong shading filtering, we believe that it's a metallic object. We'll have to do some more tests on it to be certain of that, but we know for certain that it's not a natural object. It's not a tree branch, it's not the trunk of a bush or something like that. It's a metallic object.
Well, it's got loads and loads of ancient stone circles and carved rocks with swastikas on them and that kind of thing, and cup and ring marks. So there's many legends attached to it. But one of the most interesting ones, as far as this case goes, is that Whitewell's Museum, which is a spa, in the 19th century, something happened there. The curator of the museum was going to open up one morning when he heard a noise from inside, and he opened the door and he found inside several green creatures dancing around the spa. Small green creatures, very similar to this Ilkley Moor creature.